Hey folks, like most other patch zones, Zereth Mortis is going to be filled with a ton of different treasures that you can open. While some of them only drop toys or cosmetic items, a good amount of the treasures give some pretty nice rewards. As such, I figured it would be important to make a guide documenting how to open every single one of them. First, though, we need to differentiate between treasures that are one-time only and treasures that can be opened every single day. Scattered around Zereth Mortis are a lot of different objects called Cipherbound Chest, or Avian Nest, or Prying Eye Discovery, or even Discarded Automa Scrap. There are others like this, but they're all just basically reskins of the same repeatable chests, which you can open every single day. They have an insane amount of spawn points, and there's usually a bunch up at one single time, so I'm not going to bother reading out every single possible location. All you need to know is that you'll occasionally find some of these sitting out in the open, and you can loot them multiple times each day for some relatively small rewards. Additionally, there are chests which the game refers to as Caches of Creation, and you can unlock these after researching Cacheal Understanding in the Cipher Research Control panel. While you may see these chests sitting around outside, you can't actually receive rewards from them unless they're part of an active world quest. When the world quest is active though, the chest location will be marked on the map, so it would be kind of pointless for me to give a detailed description of every single one of the locations. You should just do them whenever their corresponding world quest appears. The last repeatable chest is called the Sandworn Chest, and it can be found in the northeastern part of the zone in the Endless Sands. To open it, you'll need a Sandworn key, and you can get this by collecting fragments from the nearby mobs. 5 fragments can be formed together to make the key, and when you open the chest, you'll receive a small amount of cosmic flux and some Sandworn relics, which you can exchange for some 246 item level gear. If you're interested to know more about this, I discuss it in my video Alt Catch-Up in patch 9.2. With all that stuff out of the way, we can finally talk about the one-time only chests. Most of the ones we'll be discussing here are listed under the achievement Treasures of Zereth Mortis, but there are a few additional chests that I'll discuss towards the end of the video. While some of these chests have unique items on their loot table, there are a few things that every single one-time chest will reward, so I want to quickly list those out here so I don't end up repeating myself down the line. For starters, each chest will give you 200 Cosmic Flux, which is basically the new version of Soul Ash or Soul Cinders. Given the fact that upgrading a legendary to 291 item level only costs 2,000 Cosmic Flux, and there are over 20 chests to loot, you'll be able to upgrade 2 or more legendaries by the time you've completed the Treasures in Zereth Mortis achievement. This is by far the best reason to loot these treasures, assuming you're too lazy to farm rare mobs or Torghast. Additionally, each chest rewards an amount of ciphers the first ones, somewhere in the range of 14 to 18. It appears to vary from chest to chest, but each one will always drop at least some ciphers, and you'll need some of these to research technologies within Zereth Mortis anyways, so it's pretty good to get them. Finally, the one-time chests also have a chance to drop Progenitor Essentia, which is basically the new version of Korthite crystals. Unlike 9.1 though, there is no treasure which is guaranteed to drop a Progenitor Essentia, so it's just an additional low drop chance upon looting any treasure, be it a one-time chest or a repeatable chest. And lastly, 7 of the treasures will drop an item called Spatial Opener. I'll mention this when we discuss one of those 7 treasures, but I will explain the actual importance of the Spatial Opener at the end of the video. Now that we've gone through all of that, let's look at our first treasure. The first chest we'll be discussing, Library Vault, can be found here in the southern area of the zone located inside of a cave. In order to open it, you just need to click on this panel here in the room, run over to the chest, and then it should be unlocked. It drops a schematic for Protoform Synthesis, which is some new system that lets you craft battle pets. The next treasure, Damaged Jiro Stash, can be found after completing a fairly easy jumping puzzle in this area in the northwestern part of the zone. The only thing it drops is a cosmetic one-handed mace called Percussive Maintenance Instrument. Forgotten Proto-Vault can be found over here, all the way at the top of a mountain. In order to access it, you either need flying, you need access to a world quest called Frog It, which gives you a frog that can bound up the mountain, or you can just do it with Door of Shadows. I'm not going to show the entire process, but any of these methods will work. The chest itself doesn't drop anything interesting, just another Protoform Synthesis schematic. Offering of the first ones can be found here, just north of Haven. The only thing notable that it drops is a token which rewards 75 reputation with the Enlightened faction, and it is worth noting that this item does get boosted by the Darkmoon Fair buff. The next treasure is Mawsworn Cache, which can be found here up in the northeast, and the only thing notable that it drops is a Protoform Synthesis schematic. Fallen Vault can be found off a cliff all the way up north here in the Antecedent Isle, and the only thing notable that it drops is a Spatial Opener. The Domination Cache is found in the Endless Sands, and in order to unlock it, you need to kill Mawsworn Inquisitors until you get a Domination Cache key. This has roughly a 1% drop chance. The chest itself contains a spatial opener and a cosmetic two-handed sword. Architect's Reserve is located here in the southern area of the Endless Sands, and in order to access this, you first need to complete a questline unlocked by researching the cipher technology Sopranian Understanding. After finishing the entirety of this questline, which starts at Pilgrim's Grace, you'll be able to open the Architect's Reserve. The only thing notable that it drops is a dapper Pokepock costume. Overgrown Protofruit is located here, just on top of the Exile's Hollow flight point. It's a fairly easy jumping puzzle, and it doesn't drop anything interesting aside from the usual Cosmic Flux and ciphers. Drowned Broker Supplies is located here, just south of Haven. In order to get it, you'll first need to research the tech Dialic Understanding. Once this is done, you can have Pokepock take control of the Corliss Arlid nearby. He'll swim underwater and then drag the chest up to the surface. The chest itself only really contains a Pirate Pokepock costume. Protomineral Extractor can be found lodged into a rock a bit high up along this cliff in the northern area of the zone. The easiest way to reach this is obviously flying, but if you want to get there before, then you'll need to use something like Door of Shadows to teleport up the cliff. The only thing interesting this drops is a cosmetic one-handed axe. Stolen Scroll can be found here, right up above Haven, and in order to unlock it you can either teleport or complete a short jumping puzzle. It drops a spatial opener and another token for 75 reputation, which also scales with the Darkmoon Fair buff. Protoflora Harvester can be found here, and it's pretty easy to access. You can either glide off a cliff or use something like Door of Shadows to teleport. Its only notable drop is a cosmetic offhand. Ripened Protopear is found in a small cave in the southeastern area of the zone, and in order to reach this cave, you'll need to complete a questline unlocked by researching the cipher technology Sopranian Understanding. About halfway through the questline, you'll unlock the chamber, which contains the unripened Protofruit. In order to loot it, though, you'll need to run around and collect buffs from the green clouds in the chamber, and once you've gotten the buff, you need to go back and interact with the fruit to make it grow. After doing 5 interactions with the fruit, the treasure will become lootable. The only thing notable that it drops is a peaceful Pokepock costume. Bushel of Progenitor produce can be found locked inside of a room in the southernmost point of the zone. In order to open this door, you'll need to head a bit north and kill some nascent servitor mobs. Upon killing them, you'll get a stacking buff called Creation Catalyst Overcharge, and when you get 5 stacks of this buff, you'll be able to open the door. It drops 2 notable things, the Chef Pokepock costume and the Bushel Mysterious Fruit toy. Submerged Chest is located here, in the southeastern area of the zone, but unfortunately it's the only chest that I don't actually have footage of. Currently on the PTR it's bugged because in order to access it, you need to grab this dangerous Orb of Power and place it on a pedestal, but it's currently uninteractable on the PTR. When this is working correctly though, the pedestal will teleport the chest to the surface and you'll be able to open it. It currently drops a spatial opener and an Admiral Pokepock costume. Template Archive can be found here in a small cave just north of Pilgrim's Grace, and in order to access it, you just need to click on this big ball, which rolls into another big ball, and then opens a chamber which leads to the treasure. The only thing notable it drops is an adventurous Pokepock costume. Stolen Relic can be found here, just east of Haven, and in order to access it, you'll need to complete this short jumping puzzle, but the treasure itself doesn't actually have any unique loot. Gnawed Valise can be found here, a little bit southeast of Haven, and it also requires you to complete a short jumping puzzle that might require 1 or 2 Door of Shadows teleports. Unfortunately, it doesn't drop any unique loot. Filched Artifact can be found all the way in the southern area by the Catalyst Gardens, and once again, it requires you to complete a short jumping puzzle. However, this treasure does reward a spatial opener. Crushed Supply Crate can be found here, just southwest of Pilgrim's Grace, and in order to access it, you'll first need to pick up the Roaming Repair tool located nearby. If you bring this tool to Hu Fi, a nearby Automa, he gives you a hammer which you can use to break the rocks sitting on top of the treasure. This treasure, unfortunately, awards no unique loot. Mistaken Ovoid is interesting, as you can find it inside of this cave here, but in order to actually open it, you'll need to go on an egg hunt around Zereth Mortis. Around some of the big golden balls that you'll find lodged into the ground, you can find some smaller golden balls called Lost Ovoids. If you collect 5 of these things and bring it to the bird nest located inside of the cave, you can loot the treasure. The only thing notable that it drops is another protoform synthesis schematic. Pilfered Curio can be found on top of a pillar on this hill, and in order to access it, you'll probably need to use something like Door of Shadows. The only thing notable it drops is a Pepe Pokepock costume. Grateful Boon can be found here, and it's really high up on a cliff, so you'll probably need to sequence a bunch of Door of Shadows in order to reach it. Once you get up there, you're going to need to calm all of the agitated wildlife in the area by petting them. Once all of them have been soothed, the chest will spawn nearby, but the only thing notable that it drops is a protoform synthesis schematic. Syntactic Vault can be found here, just southwest of the entrance to the Sepulchre of the First One's raid. In order to unlock it, you'll need to complete a puzzle which involves going around and collecting 6 different symbols in the surrounding area. Once you've collected all 6 symbols, you can return to the treasure and open it to get the Protopelagical Cube toy. Undulating Foliage can be found here, and in order to access this treasure, you're going to need to use a teleporter located inside of the cave. This teleporter has 4 locks, and you can disable them throughout the building, and one of them is located just outside of the building. Once all 4 locks have been disabled, you can use the teleporter to go to the treasure and open it. It drops a spatial opener and an infested Automa core toy. Symphonic Vault can be found here, just southeast of the Forge of Afterlives, and in order to unlock it, you need to complete a short puzzle. Now, this puzzle involves the 4 broken consoles around the room, and you're supposed to press them in the right order. Apparently, if you click on this broken Automa to start the puzzle, it's supposed to give you this audio cue, which will tell you which order to press the consoles in, but I couldn't figure this out, so I just did it through trial and error, and that seemed to work, so I would recommend just doing that if you don't care enough to figure out this puzzle. The only thing interesting that it drops is a spatial opener. As mentioned before, 7 of the chests will drop a special item called a spatial opener. In case you forgot, they are Filched Artifact, Symphonic Vault, Undulating Foliage, Stolen Scroll, Submerged Chest, Domination Cache, and Fallen Vault. On its own, the spatial opener doesn't actually do anything special, but they're actually required as keys for another achievement called Sand Everywhere. This achievement is a bit weird, as currently it seems like nobody on Wowhead or, well, anywhere that I could find actually knows how to complete it. This is where I would have ended things if I didn't happen to find somebody on the PTR last night who knew how to finish this achievement. So shout out to Whitehorn on the Twisting Nether server for showing me this. Now, apparently, if you fly around this area, the Resonant Peaks, you'll find these little hidden symbols like stuck up against the wall in certain places. I wish that I could give you exact locations, but this actually seems to be a bit inconsistent, and upon testing this on some of my alts, it looks like the symbols either have random respawn points or in some cases don't spawn at all, so I'm not sure if there's something I'm missing or if this is just partially bugged at the moment. That said, I've been able to find up to 4 total symbols, and each one unlocks a special teleport point that you can access through the Locust Shift ability in the nearby area. The first of these Locust Shift teleport points will take you to a treasure room for the Sand Everywhere achievement, and within it you'll find the 7 aforementioned piles of sand, which you can then use your spatial openers to crack open. Unfortunately, like I said, I've only been able to get here on one of my characters, and on that character I've only been able to get 4 of the spatial openers because some of them are either locked behind like long research times or bug treasures in the case of Submerged Chest. I was only able to open 4 treasures myself, but because Whitehorn was able to open the rest, we know that out of these 7 sand piles, you can get 4 rings, 1 healer trinket, and 2 DPS trinkets. All of these will also drop at 246 item level, making them actually a pretty good source of alt catch-up gear. Now, I mentioned before that I found 3 additional chambers by collecting runes outside of the Resonant Peaks area, and one of them doesn't really seem to lead to anything interesting. There's just a console that gave me some anima, but the other 2 do contain additional treasures. The first is the Fulgor Alcove, and within it there's a small puzzle which has some rotating orbs, and if you ride them to the top, you can loot an item called a Torn Ethereal Drape. This didn't really drop anything interesting though, it just gave me a generic cloak and the usual Cosmic Flux and ciphers of the first ones. The other room, Rondure Alcove, had a jumping puzzle which was really annoying, as there were these orbs which would just randomly knock me back right before I could loot the treasure. And aside from some generic piece of gear that it gave me, it also had a kobold costume for Pokepock. There's also evidently a 5th chamber that has been data mined on Wowhead, but like I said, nobody knows how to access it, and I certainly haven't been able to find it, but apparently people on Wowhead seem to think it drops another protoform synthesis schematic, so who knows? I guess we'll have to see. Once again, if I find any information, it'll be in the pinned comment. And with that, we've successfully covered pretty much every single treasure in patch 9.2, or at least every single treasure that we actually know about. Additionally, if you're interested in hunting rare mobs within Zereth Mortis, I recently posted a video which details the location, strategy, and drop table for every single one that was added in patch 9.2. If that sounds like something you're interested in, you can watch the video here.